Web TV. So today we want to talk about how to attract your tribe in the relationship. Hi Sue, good morning.
Yes, hello, good morning.
Okay, so let's get started today's topic, which is how to attract your soul tribe in your relationships. So have you ever experienced attracting people more like you after your awakening? What's your experience, Sue?
Absolutely, I have. And it's so wonderful that the way that it happened for me. Like, we talked last week about people kind of dropping out of your life, but it's really cool to talk about how people come into your life organically that they're just meant to walk with you at this point in your journey.
Yeah.
And for me, it's happened, just via connections of Facebook. I don't do a lot of social media, but when I do social media, I do search for posts that are meaningful to me, and I try to keep things real positive and uplifting. I like a lot of animal posts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, just animals doing funny things, anything to keep my energy high. And I just organically meet people that way, and then of course in interactions with my son's school and sports and things like that of that nature. I meet people, and sometimes maybe I've known this person for years but don't really know them, and then all of a sudden we're starting to sort of pick up a conversation and start noticing common thread.
Yeah.
And so I really think that it's worth mentioning that timing.
Did you realize the connection is special, like compared to what you had in previous connection when you meet these people, or how was it?
Yeah, definitely a difference in connection. And I'll say it this way. Some of the individuals I'm referring to that I've more recently been having conversations with, they're people that when I first met them, I had a natural, intuitive feeling about, very positive, warm feeling. But it's just at that time, it wasn't, I think it wasn't right to connect.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there was a natural affinity there. However, and it wasn't until a little bit later on, and then we started talking about things that are happening currently, the COVID and other things that are going on, lockdowns, schools, that kind of thing. And all of a sudden I start realizing, oh, wait, we have a whole lot in common, and I just get the natural sense that it's time for these conversations to happen. And, my personal relationship with my husband, wow, how cool. We're growing together, and, every once in a while, like, we're getting to the point we've been together so long, we sometimes finish each other's sentences, but we definitely have that mental etheric connection. But he would say something, this year, and I would think, oh, wow, I hadn't even thought of it that way. And so our willingness to expand our consciousness together has been really amazing, and it works out because we're both willing, and we're both willing to look at things in different ways that we don't agree on everything, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain topics that, I entertain that he just thinks are way out there. Okay, you go ahead with that. Yeah, I'd have to say that I think there is a natural attraction to people that are meant to be in your life at any given time. And it's a flow, I would say. I think if we can not worry too much about the why of it, and we can get because I think that trips us up sometimes, and we're not trusting our intuition when we're sitting there trying to figure out why why did this one leave? Why is this one all of a sudden coming back into my life? Or, that sort of thing. I don't think the why really matters. If we can trust it.
And then it's really important to stop analyzing what this connection is. I think the last few years I keep on meeting people by accident. I wasn't really planning to meet my soul tribe or anything. But I think my guide are planning to hook us up through other people. So recently I become good friend with this lady that our mutual friend introduced me to her because she was looking for help. And then I'm too busy with my business, so I really couldn't really help her. But if she seems like she's going through very very challenging time, and then we live close by, so I'm like, if I can help her to do something so she can focus on what she's doing, which is her career. So I at least decided to meet her. And then she was looking for someone to watch her kid, but I really didn't have time for that. So I was like, oh, I don't have time for that, but at least I can meet her and meet the kid and see how it goes. And what turned out to be was we are all soul tribe, because I ended up giving her regressions because she needed it, because she was going through a lot of emotional thing. And then we became friends right away. So, she needed more help than just talking about all this turmoil she was going through. And then she's very, very independent person and very, very success oriented. So she doesn't really ask help from anyone. So that made me want to help her more. And then after, she never did any, quantum regression or anything. But, she tapped into her past life, so she had more clarities on her relationships with men, And then we solved a lot of wounds, and then we found out, me and her and other person who introduced me to her were family in a past life in France. Yeah, I know. And then
that's so cool.
Instantly felt familiar with her, and then her kid was very at ease to me. And then I sort of offered my help for 5 days because her kid was going through very abusive environment in the school. So I kind of wanted to make sure that she can get out of that, because it's not some schools are not a good environment for little kids to go through, in the online environment right now. It's too inhumane sometimes. Some school doesn't let her kids to be kids, So, long story short, kid went back to a school she likes, and then everything has solved. And then she was like, oh, you came into my life, you're like an angel. So I just, gave her what I know to help her to move forward her life. And then she's happy. And then I was more surprised that, okay, I would never met her unless our mutual friend was looking for help for this girl. And then I happened to live nearby, so it's easier to give my hand, even though I wasn't really looking to help anyone because I was too busy. And then it turned out to be, oh my God, we're so funny. And then the stuff she is going through, I've been through it before. Not as tough environment as she's in, but I can totally see myself in there. So I know how to help her. So I was like, oh, this is so blessing. And then as a friend of mine, like he lives in England, who is like our fellow, a BQH practitioner, and then we did the swap session, and then we felt like, I think we met in past lives, and then he did some session with other practitioner, and he found out that I played the role of his wife in the past life, the traumatic past. And then that was the past life. He asked me to help him to ease his guilt. And then we both didn't know that we played out the family role, because I guess we're soul family, and it kind of made sense for us to become husband and wife to go through the mission, which was not that successful at that time. And then we were surprised, wow, like there's connection there, but we both felt like instant connection. So stuff like that happened to me, like, I guess last few years. So when I meet people, like let's say through Facebook or whatever, and then I can kind of sense like, okay, this person showed up in my life, and I feel like I can collaborate with this person, and I think we spend time together in other planet or something like that. And that happens to me all the time now. And then I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna analyze this. I'm not gonna judge it. Like, okay, you're not gonna have any meaningful friendship or meaningful contact or anything through social media. Not like that. You don't kind of like filter it how you meet people. And I feel like be open-minded, and then don't analyze, don't overthink is step number one of how to attract your soul tribe. You know? Sue? I can't hear your voice right now.
I know.
I do. Now I do.
Oh, sorry. Something happened with my microphone. It's like you and I. Right? I agree with what you're saying. And why question it? I mean, it was just so organic, the way that we met and decided to work together, and I think maybe even a little bit of predestined. And, and I mean, we had our Pleiadian lives together, and so I mean, I think it's worthwhile to also mention that if we, as souls, made a contract to come in at this time in our lives and work together, then that's why that happened. And how many hundreds of posts go up on Candace's site on the quantumhealers.com for practitioners? I mean, my email is just absolutely chock full of them, and I don't look at them every day. I, like yourself, I'm very busy with, my jobs, and all of a sudden here I'm looking at, Erica's email, and I'm very attracted to it. There's a lot of people that want to do swap sessions, but for some reason I clicked on yours. So I don't think that was an accident. But like you're saying, I don't think we should overthink it either.
Yeah.
When that attraction is there to a person or to a situation, maybe we just roll with it.
Yeah, because even though, like, let's say, someone who is just started awakening, not like me and Sue, we've been on this road for a while, but even in the beginning, it's very important to not to filter, like, not to overthink, like, okay, this person showed up in my life, what does this mean? You find out. Just
Absolutely.
Go for it.
A couple of years ago, I had a neighbor. I was just outside doing my yard work, and all of a sudden talking to me over the fence. And to be honest with you, I didn't even know I had a new neighbor. That the other ones had moved out. I mean, I'm just kind of in my own world. Well, truthfully, my mom and dad, they had a lot of health issues, and I was their caretaker for years. So I had my own stuff going on. And anyway, long story short, she wanted to connect with me. And then we discovered that, she had a modality and I had a modality, so we decided to swap sessions. What she does is very different from what I do, but it's okay. I thought, fine, energetic exchange. So to summarize why I think I met this person, and because I ended up having to say, I just don't want to be friends. And it was to teach me, there were some things said that sounded very competitive, like some digs that I was receiving. And I thought, geez, I don't even know this person. Where is this coming from? And I believe the lesson in it was that I needed to be secure in my own understanding of myself and what I want out of a relationship. And this person needed quite a bit of help, and I think if using the quantum healing, I think I could have gotten quite a ways with her, but I don't think that she was open to the process, to be honest with you. I think she was curious about it. And on the other hand, I had to realize that I can't fix people. I have this ability. I have all of this knowledge. I have this practice that I do that's really, really effective. But if a person isn't available and willing to go through the process and isn't open to it, I can't force it on anybody.
We can't change anything or everything unless the person we are working on is willing to receive, right?
Yeah, and I think the whole reason that she came into my life at that moment in time was because I was still settling my boundaries with individuals. I went for years and years, as a social worker and that sort of thing, taking care of people and trying to fix people. And that, as we know, that doesn't work. And I was coming out of that completely. And that was one last little quick relationship that happened just to, it was like the universe was saying, are you sure? Are you sure you don't want to be a caretaker anymore? And I was quite sure. So you don't have to end, a situation like that in anger or have some kind of heated confrontation. I just very kindly and politely said, this relationship just isn't for me. I'm sorry. I really don't want to spend any more time together, but thank you, for the time that we did spend. And I felt very empowered after that. So, I think it's worth mentioning that people can come into your life to show you something along those lines, to help you become very clear on what you want out of a relationship, and whether that's romantic or friendship or,
Oh yeah, that's the point of dating. Dating is to me to find a compatibility with the other person. Of course, you always have hope, like it is, going to be someone who I can spend the rest of my life with. But you're not gonna start dreaming about it until you know for sure, being who you are and being who he is compatible. And that to me is dating. And then you feel like you can accept other people's offer more like, okay, yeah, let's go out to see how it happens, instead of like, okay, is this person qualified to be my husband? You never know who would be like suitable for you. Like, unless you feel like absolutely icky about this person, like for some reason, then don't do that. But if the other person is acceptable, okay, I can spend an hour with him for a drink to get to know with him. I mean, then it's just a date can be more like a discovery time.
Absolutely. Boy, I think you hit the nail right on the head with that. I tell both of my sons, the older one, he carves his own path. My 17-year-old, I said to him, date him often, because this is what helps you kind of map out what it is you want, the kind of qualities in an individual that you want, and then someday, if you decide to marry, And like Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell, I mean, they've been together, 47 years, and they're still not married, and they have children together and all that. So I don't think the parents' ultimate, you know, status of a successful relationship. I mean, I could have stayed with my husband all this time and not be married to him. He wanted it more than I did, and I was like, fine, no, I'm really good with that. It didn't bother me at all to be married. It was fine. However, I'm just saying, I don't think it has to be but you want to create a roadmap through dating and experiencing a lot of different people before you get to the point where you say, okay, this is the one person that I think I'm going to spend my life with. And you have to experience what you don't want in order to know what you do want.
Oh, definitely. And also, I was reading the book about the relationship. It's not about how to have a relationship. I know this because I'm a relationship coach, but it's like more like mentally, like brain-wise, how women operate and the man operate brain-wise, and then basically women operate with biological clocks. So when you date, like in 3 months, you started to irritate, like, oh, where is this going? Like in 6 months, like, oh, did he ask you to go out and marry you or something, like talk about future? And I do hear this like quite often. To me, that is not, I guess, good guiding light to have a really happy relationship. Because if you are dictated by time, and then you may end up choosing the person who is just qualified instead of who you really love. And that's not good for both parties. Because I was raised by a narcissistic mother, I was very careful because I kind of heard from other people, if you're in that environment, you end up being in a codependent relationship when you're in the relationship. So you tend to attract the narcissist and someone who uses you. So I was very, very, very careful about choosing my partner or my date. I mean, date is date. Like, let's see how it goes. But my boyfriend is someone I select, from all men, among all men. So he's really qualified. But I don't really choose that person easily. And then that takes time. You're not going to choose your boyfriend in 3 months.
Well, the point I think that you're also raising is that we have to be in tune with our own internal energies and where are we coming from and what are our mindsets, because, like you said about the possibility of attracting a codependent relationship, that's an energy that we give out that attracts that to us.
Yeah.
And so, if we are consciously aware of our own behaviors, and what we will and won't accept. And okay, I'll give you an example. My first husband and I, we were kind of like, we were very young to begin with, but he was kind of like his father, and I was kind of like my mother. And believe me, none the two should meet, right? And I didn't really see that until afterward, that I had attracted someone to me that, I don't want to put him down. He's a great guy, but that was a taker. Let's be real honest about it. And he was young. And he's changed a lot. But at that point in time, I wasn't conscientious of and also I needed to be taken care of too, and that's codependence, right?
Yeah.
When two people are relying on each other to get their needs met instead of meeting their own needs. So we both had that going on. And then I still had some of those tendencies when I met up with my current husband, 28 years ago. I wasn't fully healed, but I was in counseling at that time, and I was definitely a lot more mindful than about entering a relationship. And there was a willingness on my husband's part, for him to work on his issues and me to work on mine. So that was how it worked. And we've grown in stages over the years, and it's kind of like in a video game, you level up, right?
Yeah, and the mindfulness is important because if you have a tendency to attract according to the statistics, you can just jump into the dating and start dreaming about, okay, it's 6 months, like where is this going? Like in my case, I had to be careful to see, okay, am I in a healthy relationship or not? So I was no way in the boat of looking to see the future, because to me, unless at least you go out with someone for 1 year, you don't know who they are. And for safety wise, I was preferring to go out with someone 2 years, just in the relationship, not really talking about the future yet. And that was me, and that saved a lot of time for me. Like in terms of making the decision to have a real commitment, like because you kind of find out you are like compatible with that person as a boyfriend and girlfriend term, but that doesn't mean you're compatible to have a life together because you're so different.
Right.
Or even if you're different, like if the other person and you are willing to meet in the middle ground and both of you are easygoing, then yeah, you can have marriage, but like you can't really decide to marry someone just out of love only. Like I'm not saying like you gotta be calculated, but you gotta see if the other person is willing to work on it. Like if they have that kind of personality to begin with.
Exactly. I mean, and that just boils down to having communication. I just don't understand. Well, I do in a way because it's the old-fashioned way of doing things. There was a lot of game playing in relationships, wasn't there? In America, anyway, it was this whole, women had to be somewhat elusive, men had to chase, and then they catch their prize, and then women find out, oh, he just was after the chase, and now that he has me, he's over here looking for this one and that one. There's this whole dynamic that seemed to carry through, many people.
But like, if you take time,
nowadays we got to get real. We got to get real and have a conversation and be very clear about what we're interested in. And I don't think there's anything wrong with meeting somebody and being attracted to them and just saying, hey, I just want to have some fun. I'm not really looking for a committed relationship right now. I'm just interested in going out and having some dates and having some fun. And the opposite too, if you come out and say, I've dated a lot, I've had a lot in my life, and I'm really interested in settling down. I don't want to have a playful relationship. And if that's not something that you are interested in as well, then we might as well just agree to enjoy this date and be friends.
Yeah, I mean, it's very important to tell your potential partner what you're looking for in the beginning. Like, I don't agree on pretending in dating. Like, that's what I tell my client, that don't fake yourself when you meet someone, because eventually you have to show who you are in marriage or something. And then if it doesn't work out, you are not in a good situation. So it's the best for you to show who you are in the early stage, and then it's best for you so you can save your time to tell them what you're looking for in early stage. Like, this is like something I hear from a successful girlfriend who is like having a really successful relationship versus someone who is having not that great marriage. Like a lot of successful girlfriends, they tell a guy who they meet their expectations.
Yeah, get that right out in the front.
Yeah, like from
other than that, he's going to be playing a game too. The energy of that dynamic of pretending. I mean, you're gonna attract a pretender to you.
Yeah.
And boy, that dance is not fun.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
And then you're not gonna attract your soul tribe, your soulmate by doing that. You're gonna attract a karmic partner for sure. But because you're not gonna showing who you are in true light, but you are putting a lot of facade and all this illusion all around you, and then all you're gonna attract is fake, which is a lot of times karmic partner. And then like that's kind of a waste of your time. Because if you're looking for, let's say, some authentic, happy love, it's not giving you a favor by you faking yourself. And then a lot of times I see people don't show their true color or true self because they're insecure. So before you're looking for your partner, maybe, I recommend them to work on themselves, because if you're not confident enough to show who they are, take it, leave it. If you don't like who I am, that's fine, because there's somebody out there, they're going to like you as exactly who you are.
And I think the kind of introspection that it takes to be able to do that, that's the work that has to be done prior to going into a relationship. For example, I do a radio show on Thursday nights called Divine Connections, and a lot of what we get in a form of questions are about romance. And before I start the show, I just want to say every time, okay, people, if you're going to ask me about your romantic life, let me just say this. If you've had a string of relationships that have been, in your opinion, unsuccessful, have you taken the time to sit down and look at it and say, okay, what was my part in that? A lot of people just love to blame the other person for why things went wrong. I'm sorry, folks. I'm going to tell you right now, that is a load of horse crap, because it takes two to tango. It takes two to make a relationship work. And if you're not being honest and clear with what your issues are and working on them, then you're just going to keep attracting the same type of person in a different body, and it's just going to go on and on. It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah. So
and that's the work. That's the work that has to really trying to get yourself positioned, to have a meaningful relationship. Then I think you have to really look at yourself and go, am I the kind of person that someone would want to have a long-term relationship? Where are my issues that need a little bit of work and attention? And get real clear on that. Because we all have them, right?
Yeah, we all have them.
The ideal, perfect partner.
We don't have to be perfect, but we can be authentic.
No. Absolutely. And the willingness to be able to see yourself, to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, I know I didn't handle that quite well. What triggered me? Why do I get upset about that sort of thing? For me, I'll just share with you my personal red shiny button. My trigger is when anybody tries to indicate to me or suggest, or I imply that they're suggesting that I'm stupid. It gets me big time. And that goes to my childhood. I was not given a lot of credit as a young person and as a teenager for being capable and intelligent. My parents just didn't see that side of me. I think my father did, but he was the quiet one. He was a very present moment individual. He was one of those move on, what's next, let's keep moving forward, and let's not really talk about yesterday kind of person. But I was sort of and I don't want to get into huge storytelling about my family dynamics, but I was the black sheep of the family, and I needed to play that role because they needed someone to take the pressure off of the marriage, the problems in the marriage. So I was it. And let me tell you what that did to my self-esteem, not really great. But so that is still a trigger for me, and I've gotten really, really good at understanding when it happens, of pulling myself aside and saying, okay, this isn't about you. This is something that they stated, it's a difference of opinion, whatever it happens to be. But I have to have a conversation with myself and remind myself, just because they're saying this to me doesn't mean it's a dig at me. they're not trying to attack me. I'm just interpreting it that way. So, does it sound like a lot of work? Yeah, it sounds like a lot of work, but all it is being mindful.
Yeah.
Okay. And this understanding came from years of my self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Of why have I gotten in fights? And what makes me angry? And what makes me tick? You get to know yourself on an atomic level, then you're very naturally going to know, and real quick, whether somebody you've just met is going to mesh with you or not. You're gonna be able to intuit it on a cellular level.
Yeah. So step number 2 is get to know yourself deeply, so you can see your soul tribe clearly. If you fake, you're gonna attract fake people and the karmic people like partner. You don't want that. So take your time, and then when you meet someone, let's just have a relaxed mind to see where this goes. Instead of deciding and labeling, okay, this is the love of my life, I just know this. Because you're strapping yourself and chaining yourself to put yourself into that kind of matrix. You don't know that until you find out who the other person is.
I agree. And I'll tell you, there's still a lot of folks out there that think having children together is going to make a relationship work. And I'm here to say that not only is that not the case, but now you've also involved an innocent human being into the mix, into something that now they have to play out your drama because you've brought them into the world. I don't know, is it fair of me to bring that up? But there are still women out there that think, oh, if I just have his child, then everything's going to work out.
It's going to look good, like facade, but it just doesn't. I mean, kids can notice. I mean, even though you pretend to be happy, they can tell. Especially small kids, they can subconsciously tell. And then what kind of example you're teaching as a parent, that you are faking yourself to have a fake relationship? That's not, and then they're gonna end up being like you, and they're gonna end up attracting partner like you, and that's not a good example to be a parent. To me, because I do remember my clear memory as a parent in past life, and I was, 5-star parent. I'm so proud of that. But in order to be a parent, you have to be someone who can be an example as a human being. And are you proud of yourself? Are you really confident of yourself as a human being, how you are living your life authentically?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because the child
and just a lot
is going to look at your back and learn from you.
Exactly. And, that's the thing. I mean, if you're bringing a child into the relationship to fix the relationship, keep the relationship, or because you're lonely and you feel like you need this person that is yours to bring them, there's the codependency. You're relying on that child to bring you happiness, and I'm not sure that that's fair.
Yeah, and then you're latching yourself onto the kids, and then that's too much, what you want to call it, bondage to the kids. Your parents is latching onto you. Because after they grow up, like 21 or whatever, they have to live their own life, and then eventually they're going to start finding their own partner, and then they're going to have their own family. So you can't latch onto your kid because you are not having really a good relationship with your spouse.
Right. So what do you do if you find out, like maybe you have someone come to you for relationship counseling.
Mm-hmm.
They realize, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that I did this thing. But, okay, guess what? Now we have kids or a child or several children, and, they become aware of their motivation for him. Now what do we do? Well, how do we make this better and turn it around?
It's usually the concept of what the family is and the relationship is derived from childhood trauma and the childhood programming. So it's very important to reprogram, themselves to put themselves into healthy concept of what this is all about. A lot of how family should be derived from your childhood experience, and then a lot of the times you don't remember, and then your parents taught you this is how the family should be, and then unless you're one of those extremely lucky top 1% of people, your parents are extremely loving and unconditionally loving you as who you are. I mean, most of us are coming from, less or more not the great family background, and then we all learn those programmings, and then we have kind of distorted idea of how family should be, like status or how it has to look outside of your world, how other people going to see you as a family instead of how you feel within that, unit. So it's very important I, help out my client to go through regressions to heal those wounds. And then after you heal those, they can start seeing the situation where they are at, and then they can come up with their own conclusion by observing their situation. I won't tell them how the family unit should be,
Right.
But because I've been through a lot of self-healing, I do have idea, but they have to come up with their own term. And then if they choose to not to stay with this marriage with their spouse, then they have to come up with how can I provide a healthy environment for my kid, which is doable.
So in essence, you're growing. Yeah, you're growing with your child. In essence, you're teaching yourself through understanding and clarity in okay, what went wrong, and now how am I going to take corrective action for myself? But in a sense, you're saying that person is reparenting themselves at the same time that they're giving their children a healthier environment.
Yeah, I mean, you have to parent yourself first, and then you grow your inner child and stuff like that to healthy level. Then after you learn how to love yourself and then face your truth instead of making tons of excuse why it should be this way. Like I myself made tons of excuse to stay in my first marriage because of my religious belief that I was a Catholic. I no longer believe in religious organization because I'm awakened. That doesn't mean I deny Jesus or Creator. They exist and they work with me. But I truly believe in Catholicism. So when so you're Catholic too. So once you're in the religion, they tell you divorce is not a good thing and you have to stay in marriage no matter what. So I had to ask myself every day a question, even though I was really unhappy and I made a mistake of choosing my ex-husband because he was kind of faking himself, and I found out the night before my wedding.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that was shocking. So all of my that's the only thing I asked him to do in my relationship of deal breaker thing. And I was super young, so I was so scared of what my family gonna think. They all spend so much money to come here for the expensive wedding, and then it's just I had to go through this. And then after that, from day one of my marriage, I had to keep on asking myself, is this the right thing to do? Just because church told me to do. And then divine intervention happened. So divine showed me that I had to get out of it. But that took me 5 years.
Yeah, and during that time, as you were going through the 5 years, you were starting to become more and more convinced in what your needs were and what you wanted in your life. And I think maybe you got in touch with the reasons why you went ahead with marriage, even though you knew the night before that it wasn't what you wanted.
I was scared.
Yeah,
I was scared.
I understand. I mean, your whole family came in from Japan, didn't they? So that was
it
like a
was
big
so much money they spent, $20,000, and then how I gonna tell them it's called off? Maybe if like 3 months before, I probably would, but not night before the wedding.
Yeah, there was a movie I watched. I can't remember the name of it, but the same exact thing happened. And you know what they ended up doing?
What?
They decided that they were going to turn it into a, okay, so it's not a wedding, but we have the room booked and the dinner, so we're going to have a party, and we're going to be really glad that we got together and spent the money because we missed each other. We haven't seen each other in years. And I just thought that was such a cool message.
It is such a cool message. And then I read the book written by Jim Rogers. He's a great parent. He's a billionaire. And he's an amazing dad. But he had 2 marriage which wasn't working out, and his 3rd marriage is perfect for him. And then he wrote a book for his kids because they're very young. And he was saying to his kids that if, at any point of your life, that's including the night before the wedding, you find out this is not the person you want to spend your rest of your life with, tell us what you're going on, and we're going to 100% support you.
Yeah, see, I think more and more people are starting to realize that the connection and the love of the family is so much more important than insisting that my children do what I want them to do. My picture of their future is not necessarily their picture. So, these kind of things happening are also helpful to the family members, the parents. As a parent myself, I have to be constantly mindful of the fact that what I want from my sons isn't necessarily what they want for themselves. But my role is to be here and love them.
Yeah.
Come what may.
Yeah,
whatever they choose. And this lesson for me was big this year because my one son, he had a relationship breakup. It was a long-term relationship. There are children involved, so there's that. And then my other son it's his senior year of high school, and I was so upset and at first, really putting worry and fear into it because he can't go to school.
Mm-hmm.
My impression of it was, oh my gosh, look at all the things he's missing out on. And so it was my picture of his senior year that I was grieving. And after I had a discussion with him, and I said, how is this affecting me really? And to be honest with you, Erica, he's just not thinking it's that big of a deal. He's not putting all of that, oh, woe is me, I should be having, a snowball dance, and oh, woe is me, I should have had, football games and senior night, and all those things that I thought were important for him to experience. He's just not missing them. I mean, for me, huge lesson because, and again, if we hadn't had that conversation, I wouldn't have been able to put those pieces together. And communication is huge. And when we were kids, Erica, when we were young and first getting married, I don't think we were used to having those kind of conversations with our parents. Like, I knew marrying my first husband wasn't the right thing to do, but my parents, like you said, because of the religion, and here I'm expecting a child, well, there should be a marriage, right? And I just didn't stand up. I knew it wasn't right. I knew I didn't want to be married. And, but I also knew that I wanted to bring my son into the world. So there was tremendous pressure to get married so that I could bring my son into the world. And, hindsight is 2020, and that's great as long as we're learning our lessons. It's okay that we make a mistake.
Yeah, everybody do. I mean, I think the probability of me meeting right person is much harder than winning the lottery. It is. So I'm pretty sure many of us, a lot of us are, in that predicament like one time or another. So like that's another reason I tell my client not to rush into the conclusion when they're dating. Like, yeah, biological stuff, but I mean, unless you hit the age of 50, you can at least have a child, like one child, you still have a chance. So you don't have to think about, okay, 1 year, like, where is my proposal is coming? Like, that is not healthy because when I look at, including myself, all of like successful girlfriends, they don't push all these things. They're like, okay, let's wait this goes because I'm too busy with my own life and own career. And then if you are fitting into my life, let's see. You know what I mean? The guys are more accommodative of, okay, I love you, like I don't want other guys to be all over you. Let's start like, thinking about seriously. You don't even have to push a guy to ask him where it is going because they are more like, okay, I see what's going on around you. All of guys are like interested in you. Like, that's how it goes according to my own experience and my girlfriend's experience who are having a great relationship. They don't push guys at all. Of course, they tell them they're expecting to meet someone someday and have a family. That doesn't mean, the guy who you're dating with. He could be the one. But he has to prove himself.
We're living in different times, aren't we? So if it's a time clock thing, it's my physical time clock is ticking, and I'm getting older, and I really want to have children. Do you necessarily have to have a marriage in order to have children, or can you decide to become a parent and do it on your own?
Yeah, or you can freeze it, or you can, if your husband is someone who already married and has had kids, they can accept them as your own kid. Like you don't all have to have family with your biological blood unit because especially on my experience, I know blood doesn't mean anything. In a way, blood doesn't really prove anything of happy family. Like some people come from extremely toxic relationship, and the blood bonds you into that toxic relationship because you can cut off ties from your parents because your blood bound, with that person. It's not marriage. You cannot divorce your parents. Right. So family is something you want to create with, whether you have a blood bond or not. It's more like soul connection, soul ties. So how you can create soul bond between one person to another, that doesn't necessarily you have to have a blood relationship with.
Yeah, and you bring up such a good point, and look at all the thousands, I don't even know what the numbers are now, but of children that are in foster care or, that need a good home. And like you said, I mean, if you could break away from believing that the only good connection you can have with a child is if you're their biological parent, so many amazing experiences in life can be had by that. I know that my older son is my current husband's son. Okay, not by biology, but by the fact that, he's been a parent to him for most of his life and loves him. And if someone were to say that's not your son, somebody's going to get a punch in the jaw.
Of course.
That's just not the case, okay? And so much more so than his biological father, I would say, as well. And I would think that my son has become the person that he is today from my husband's influence. Not solely, of course. It's a mix of everybody that you have in your life and your own personality, but some really great things that in my husband's personality and way of being in life that he has been able to give to both of our kids, and the blood relationship just doesn't even factor.
It doesn't. Like my cousin, her husband died when she was 24. She got married when she was 20, and then she married to her second husband. But by the time she already had the one kid who was 5, and then she was pregnant, and then they got married, and then they eventually had their own kid, and then they're a happy family. Like both of her 2 kids, they know their dad are not biological dad, but they see him as a dad.
Yeah, that is the decision. It's a decision how you're going to be in someone's life, and I think what we're talking about in attracting our soul tribe is understanding that a lot of what we were taught, the social conditioning, and it wasn't our parents' fault. It wasn't the community's fault, because we're just evolving is what it is. But we're dropping off much of the social conditioning that we received as children in our own family units, and we're starting to understand who we are as essential self.
Yeah.
And essential self takes that kind of introspection that we were talking about earlier. Really getting to know who you are and what part of you agrees or disagrees with what you're told is true. Everybody's got their own truth.
Yeah.
It's just is this my truth or is this somebody else's truth? Is this what I was told I should be? And if we can get rid of all the shoulds out of our lives and just get real with what we want, what makes us tick, and how we operate to our truest self, to honor our truest self, I think that's when the true connection with Soul Tribe happens.
Exactly. And also, I feel like it's very important to look at the person or look at the relationship at soul level, not the blood level, or okay, I don't know this person we just met. Like, how do you know this person is my soul tribe? You just know it. You just feel it. You just feel it, especially after you awaken. You just feel it. You're gonna know the connection right away.
Absolutely.
And then
I feel it in my body first. I don't know about you, but and then it's kind of like it's no effort at all as you're having conversation or as you deciding do you want to get together and do something together. It's effortless. In my opinion.
And then it same goes for this family unit as well. Like, those of you who are going through divorce or considering divorce, don't be afraid, because, in the future, you're going to make blended family like suited, and then it's going to work out.
And it can be so amazing.
And doubling happiness.
I wouldn't trade any of those experiences. And even leaving, my first husband and I breaking up, it was scary at first. And you lean on the people, you don't ask them to fix you, but you lean on the people that really love you and get your support that way. And I did that. Or if you don't have family or close friends to lean on, then you gotta find a therapist or a relationship coach. And I would suggest that anyway. I'm so grateful for my therapist, and he was my relationship coach.
Yeah.
Because I could go and tell him anything, and I didn't have to worry about judgment.
And that's what the thing about a coach or a therapist, that you just need a sounding board. You don't need someone who's going to give you like an opinion of how they should live or how they should feel, or
or judgment.
A judgment.
I think we've had enough of that in this life. We can stop judging ourselves and start getting real.
Yeah.
That's the key to finding
The
true
most
happiness.
important thing, like step number three, is start honoring your soul desire. Like I started doing that after 4 years of questioning, my first marriage. It took me every day questioning, do I want to stay in this? Do I want to stay in this? Do I want to stay in this? And then divine intervention happened. Then I'm like, okay, I feel like I shouldn't be, because I feel like God is telling me, I wasn't awakened at that time. So God is telling me like I'm in the wrong path. And that's kind of like pushed me to have a courage to get out, even though by whatever the church says not, but God is telling me, like showing me as a lot of signs and stuff that I'm doing wrong thing by sticking to this.
Yeah, your higher self.
Yeah.
I call that your higher self was communicating with you and saying, this is not what feels right for us. This is not what we
At
want
that
to
time
be.
it was God to me because I wasn't awake.
Yeah.
But I was kind of seeing all these signs of, they make a lot of doors close when you're pushing through to make it happen. Like job or relationship, they're gonna start closing the doors, and then nothing goes right. Even though you're trying so hard. I used to think, okay, if I work so hard to be more compatible with my ex-husband, we're gonna work out. We're too different. But like I gotta work harder. I had to put more effort. That had nothing to do with that,
I used to call it, you might as well just go in that closet and start banging your head against the wall and keep doing it until you finally decide on that day that, like, oh, I don't like the way that feels. I'm not going to do that anymore. That's what it's like trying to stay in a relationship that isn't working. It's like you might as well just go in the closet and bang your head against the wall. That's my metaphor for it. And people laugh when I say it. Quit banging on it. That door is not for you.
Yeah, because true love makes you feel free to be who you are, and those karmic relationship or whatever that is, it's like makes you feel bound. You have to feel responsible for this. You're obligated to go through this, or you should do this because your parents said so, or your church said so, whatever.
It doesn't work out. What does that say about you?
Or you feel guilty, or you feel failure, compared to other people.
Here's the kicker. What if it's financial, Erica? What if it's financial? What if people use the excuse, well, I want to leave and I know that it's right for me to leave, but, well, we've mixed our finances and so I can't.
You can always make money. You can always make money. That's my answer. And then that's another reason why I recommend ladies. This is the book I was reading last month about this lady. She married to a really wealthy person in New York, and she wrote a book. And then she mentioned about you always have to have an exit money. She married 3 times. She come from South. And then she married 3 times, and then she said, my 3rd marriage was my true love. And then she was saying, and then once she decided to walk away, she never looked back. But she was always saying, you always have to have an exit money. So as a woman, you are not tied to your husband or something just because you have no means to leave. Always have a job and always have your career, so you always have an exit money. Stash that money in separate account somewhere your husband cannot reach, so you always have an exit money from exiting this
also,
marriage.
I would add that, say we're talking about a couple who got together and neither one of them really had a lot of money to begin with. Say, you're just making ends meet paycheck to paycheck. I would say that in that situation, you have to take measures to protect your own essential essence. In other words, while you're doing self-care, you're also making plans for what's next. And it may mean that your style of living is a little bit changed, or it's very shoestring budget at first, but that doesn't often stay that way forever, especially when you feel liberated from a relationship that was very heavy, and it made your mind feel weighed down. Once you get out, even if you're living on a shoestring budget, and you have to be careful, at least you have the freedom of your essence and your emotions and your mind. And then once your mind feels free, then it opens up to all kinds of opportunities and ways. Like you said, you can always make money, but it's harder to do when you're.
Yeah, that's for especially people who are. That's people, especially for you're wealthy and you feel like, okay, if I divorce my spouse, I'm gonna lose my money. Okay, like you may lose your money temporarily, but you're gonna save your life, and then you can always
and
make
once
that
your
money.
mind is free and your emotions are free and you don't feel like you're walking around in glue, it opens up your own possibility to become creative. Abundance.
And abundance too. When you feel free, no longer bounded and chained into the marriage, you have more vitality and you have more strength.
And I would say it isn't even about money, because if I could walk outside and feel free and breathe the air and feel the sun on my face, I would take that any day over all the money in the world.
I know, but a lot of men feels like they can't live because of money. Like we have a different perspective, man.
But I think everybody's the same. I mean,
so
that's that social conditioning. Yeah.
What I'm saying is, for man out there, think about all this stress and turmoil you're going through emotionally, and think about those energy you're putting into making this, relationship work. And then if you're free from those, can you put all of your energy into more toward your new business or new success and make more money? That's what I have to tell guys, that you may lose money temporarily, but you're not going to lose it forever.
For me.
And that's something important to look at, because like a lot of men I look up to, they're like multi-millionaire, and some of them are my mentors, and then one way or another they always face the time they lost money, and then within a few years they brought themselves back into this together in same level or more money. So they are not afraid of losing anything, because they can always.
And it's funny, I know some people that they live in another country, but they were the 9-to-5 jobbers, or even more hours than that actually, had their own businesses and all that, and then one day they just decided, what are we in this rat race for? It's too stressful, I'm not enjoying my life, and all this money I have, but I'm not really able to use it because I'm working all the time. And they went off the grid, and it's like that commercial, we're going off the grid. They did. They went off the grid. They live in Australia, and they're farming. They have a farm. They're vegans, so they don't eat meat, but they could if they wanted to, because they have the farm animals. And they're just so busy enjoying life that they just don't care about all that other stuff that they used to care about. It's like something went off in their heads, and they went, wait a minute, this isn't bringing me happiness. And so, I mean, I tend to be more that kind of person where money to me doesn't mean anything. Certainly we're very comfortable, and I'm grateful for everything that we have, but the abundance in my life, the money part of it is very minimal in my opinion. But see, there again, we're start talking about what makes a person tick and figuring out what makes you tick, and there's another part of meeting your soul tribe. I mean, what is important to you? And if it's the financial success and going to, places and eating at the best restaurants and all of that, I mean, that's kind of good to know and find out in the beginning, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you can do that while you're being spiritual, but that shouldn't be dictating your life, dictating your relationship.
But finding out in the beginning of a relationship, or at least somewhere along the way in the relationship, are our goals similar, right? Because I don't think I could be partnered with somebody that wanted to live off the grid like that. I mean, I enjoy certain comforts in my life that my idea of camping is a hotel room that doesn't have a fridge and a microwave. Okay? That should be.
Yeah, my idea of camping is
exactly. Yeah. So, that's just me. That's my preference. I could be in a relationship with somebody that wanted to live off the grid because that's not what I want in my life. But, wouldn't that be nice to know if that was the case? And, thankfully my husband's the same way. He likes, the same basic comforts that I do. And so that's good. It works for us. But, if you.
Yeah, you don't have to have exactly same compatibility, but basic stuff, especially how you think about finance, very important how you look at finance, how you see the spending versus investing, if two persons, they have a completely different opinion about that, and then they're pretending I feel same way, and then after marriage you find out they have a totally different idea about that. It's going to be
and that's where the discomfort comes, isn't it? Because that's really two different consciousnesses that they're tapping into.
And unless two of them are extremely flexible to meet in the middle, it's difficult, right? And finance stuff is second reason why marriage doesn't work out. First reason is more I think sex. I think that was the first one. But second one is finance, and it's very important to have a basic comparability. What do you consider as abundance? Okay, you could both make 5 million per year each, husband and wife. But are you the kind of person who wants to be in all those people in the reality TV show, have 5 different sports cars and have a bunch of houses and wearing all this, designers brand and, go to all this social party and look good on social media type, or you both make 5 million, but you consider 250,000 is wealthy enough and put all other money as investment.
Yeah.
You have to have that kind of comparability, so you both feel comfortable with, okay, I don't have to have a designer's brand. I don't oppose to being wealthy, but those money goes more for investment, not to show off the lifestyle or keeping up the appearances. I can't certainly not be with some guy who want to keep up the facade and competing other people who has bigger house or cars or all that kind of stuff.
Because you're actually talking about two different consciousnesses. One consciousness is, what do people think of me? How can I show people that I am abundant? And the other consciousness is pretty much a gratitude for the abundance and making sure that it is protected and, grow. And those consciousnesses aren't necessarily compatible, are they?
It's not, because you feel to me abundance is okay. Today I suddenly want to feel go to Paris, so I have money to do that in last minute and take a whole month break because I feel like doing it. That's abundance. That's what money is for. It's not about showing off other people, like you don't have to prove anything. So I can't be with a guy
I
who
agree.
is like that.
I agree.
Too shallow.
That's more of my leaning as well. I like to be able to enjoy life, and if you have the ability to just go to Paris and have that time for yourself, I mean that's really what self-love is. I mean for me that's the only reason money exists anyway. That's the only reason I care about it is so that I can take the time and do things that I enjoy to do. Or drive a car that isn't going to break down on me
you're
down
free.
the road. Those kind of, and I had those cars, and I did with that tight shoestring and
me too.
paycheck to paycheck, and wearing, geez, in the beginning I had to decide between buying diapers and putting gas in my car so I could get to work. So, I absolutely know that I don't want to live that way anymore. And there's the poverty consciousness where individuals grew up very poorly, and so as they become adults and then suddenly maybe they're very successful, they just can't get past that poverty thinking.
No matter how much money you make, like multi-millions,
exactly.
You still feel like not enough. And then when he or she becomes billionaire, you still feel.
I had an uncle who, growing up, my grandmother would buy shoes for him. Even I don't know how she did it. She worked in a shoe factory, but she found ways, to help him out because they were very poor. And so as he became an adult, he could not buy enough shoes. I mean, the man had closets full of shoes because he couldn't afford. His parents couldn't afford them or didn't afford them when he was young, and he always had to wonder, where his shoes going to come from. And so, these are things where we have to be really, again, knowledgeable about ourselves. What drives us? Why do we want certain things in life? What's important? Do you even want children, or do you not want children? Do you want to continue focusing on your career the rest of your life because that brings you joy and it's exciting, and you don't really want to take time out to raise a family? That's really important stuff to get clear on.
Yeah, and then therefore it's not a good idea to make a life, turning the decision like marriage. Like, okay, 1 year he should propose me. To me, that is not wise.
That seems a little desperate.
Yeah. And then, it's like when things work out, it does work out without you pushing him. Or, threatening him to, like, okay, I'm leaving, and then he gonna feel like, okay, she abandoned me, I have to propose her. That's not the great way to get into marriage, like energetic wise, because your soul, your relationship burnt for asking for marriage.
Right. Anything based in fear is not a good decision. I agree with you completely.
Yeah, I mean, I tell my guy client, don't do that. Last thing you want to make a decision is she breaks up with you, and because she want to marry you, and then you feel panicked and ask her to marry you. Marry her. That's not a good decision because, speaking to, my girlfriends who are having extremely happy marriage, their proposal didn't come into that kind of condition.
No.
Once you go to, together, nothing special is going on, and then, of course, he knows one day you want to get married. So, any guy you go out with, you're going to notify a guy someday you want to get married to a right person. That doesn't mean this guy. So, he has to prove you're a comparable guy to, lucky enough to be a husband. And then he'll ask you one day, of course, proposal, he's going to make up all this, special occasion, but he's going to ask you all these future questions, so you know where it's going.
Or You know, I'm all for the let's break the tradition and go with she
Yeah,
and him. But you know, either which way, you're going to have a feeling ahead of time. I think is what you're saying. You're going to have a feeling ahead of time that you're both wanting to go in that direction, and it's more organic than.
For me, like their biological thing, you still wanna follow because once man make a decision, like he feels more committed than she's proposing him. So, a smart woman, what we can do as a woman is insinuating someday we want to get married. So he knows that.
Absolutely, the conversation has to be had. If you're going to keep dating somebody, let's hope we're both going in a similar direction. Otherwise, why are we doing this? You know, then we just call that a friendship. Like you know, or maybe a friendship with benefits. You know, now we're just having fun.
After a year or two, you know this guy is not comparable.
Oh my gosh, I would hope so. Yeah.
Or you can tell if he's comparable. Then you say, you know, honey, like we're so comparable, you know, I feel like I can have life with you forever. What do you think? So you're not already proposing him. But yes,
you're having a conversation.
Then you're gonna start thinking about it. You don't
that
have
conversation
to or anything. Or like you are in the you know, seeing with other people having kids and then wow, you know, like you and I get along so much, and then I can see myself to have a family with you, and you're looking at other people having kids, and what do you think? You know, you're not proposing him.
Right.
He still has to make a decision, but he's aware of, we're comparable. What I think.
And I think the reason people don't have those conversations is because they're afraid of the answer. And listen, that doesn't make any sense, and here's why. You go through a lot of time with somebody, and then eventually you get married and you haven't had the conversation. That's a rough time to find out that you're not compatible. That's now you've got a whole bigger ball of wax to deal with than you would have if you just had the conversation beforehand. And if it's no, it's no. That's okay. You're not going to die. Just move on and say, okay, you know, let's be friends. You don't have to end badly. You don't have to fight.
Marriage is not like, I mean, if it works out, it's great, but it's not like, wow, you have to abide by it no matter what. You know, like sometimes you happen to pick not the right person, or you grow apart, you know?
Yeah, and it happens all the time. I think that's why the divorce rate is over 50%, because what brought you together for the first part, you know, initially, and it worked for a while, then all of a sudden maybe you don't want the same things anymore. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think it's wrong.
It's a natural,
it's not a failure. It's not a failure. It is just, can we just agree to say, thanks for the time, thanks for the adventure, thanks for the experience and the learning and the love, and I hope your life is okay. You know, I hope everything goes really well for you, but we're just not doing it together anymore. I don't think there's any shame in that. I think it's very admirable, and especially when children are involved, because those are children that are going to have parents that are very well grounded and that are going to be always their parents, but no, they're not together anymore. And that's
I mean, if parents not going to go anywhere, right? Still their parents, you have the co-parenting, you know. But
and think how easier that is for the kids than if you have to have this nasty fight breakup and turn it into some yucky thing and get lawyers involved. There's no need for that.
They're not getting along and they're pretending they're happy. They can feel it in subconscious level.
I agree.
Feel it.
Absolutely. Yep. that was my story too. So I can tell you for sure that we do feel it, and and that's not exactly showing your children the best example. You know, the folks that stay
Yeah.
together for the kids, sort of thing. That's not an example of how to have a good relationship. So your kids are paying attention, they're learning, and they're feeling it. And if they think that that's how life works, they're going to turn around and have that kind
Yeah,
of relationship.
next week,
I'm not a
we want to
proponent.
delve into more of the marriage relationship thing, more of the marriage. And that's the topic gonna be. But like, yeah, I mean, once you notice the signs are everywhere, and then you follow what your heart, and then you jump off the cliff to get divorced, and then I was so guilty that I left my ex-husband, and then he was broken, you know. And then what's happened was he met his soulmate after a few years later. We're still friends, and then he told me, you know, I love her today more than yesterday. He didn't love me, but this person is perfect. You're so comparable with him.
Yeah, and in the end, isn't that what love is? I mean, want for the other person their best
I was
life.
so happy because I made a decision, and then he turned out to meet like love of his life. Yeah, we could have an okay marriage, but that's okay. Not happy, okay, we can deal with it, marriage.
Yeah, that does
Yeah, I
sound like
know.
a lot of fun. But let's do talk about that next week. Why don't we call it relationship change over time?
Okay, folks, so the most important thing is to follow your heart and make sure to not get lost and be authentic to yourself. That's a way to meet your soul tribe. So, see you next week. Bye.